Hey guys, it's Laudo here with Exploit Brokers. I'm bringing you a new tutorial today on virtual environment in Python. Let's get started. So the biggest question is, what is a virtual environment? Do I need a virtual reality headset? No, it's nothing like that. So a virtual environment is a way to isolate your program or your development environment from the rest of a system. Why is that important? Well, why use a virtual environment, right? A virtual environment lets you create a way to isolate all your dependencies for somewhere else. So let's say you have 10 different Python projects. Do you really want to be installing and uninstalling different packages that may be conflicting with project A from project B? No, no one wants to do that. You have only so much time. You shouldn't be using it to install and uninstall the same kind of packages you need just because you're switching from project A to project B. But even switching from branch A to branch B could have completely different packages, right? If you're upgrading packages or doing some sort of maintenance work, you could do that. So that's one of the biggest reasons. Another one is dependency hell. There is essentially a way where you can have a file that says everything you need. So you download a Python project, right? If it has the requirements, you can install the dependencies without having to go through each error and figure it out. That's a huge time saver. For any of you who've ever downloaded a project and realized there's like 20 different libraries you need, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So let's get some hands-on. Let's boot up a Ubuntu virtual machine and let's play around with it. So I have this virtual machine that's up and running right now. And for those of you who have a brand new virtual machine, I want you to make sure that you have, essentially, you need to have pip installed. One moment. You need to have pip installed. So if you don't have pip installed, I want you to run this command. Sudo apt-get install python 3 pip. This is going to get you your pip that you can use for this. The next thing is, once you have all that installed, you're going to want to do pip install virtual env. So virtual environment, but you're going to abbreviate env to env. And right here, I'm just getting some errors because I did not run this as sudo, so I didn't install the system-wide install to my user, which is all we need for now. If you need it system-wide, then you can do sudo pip install virtual env. You can do that, but then you get a nice little warning saying, hey, don't do that. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is to actually create a virtual environment. So we can do, whoops, wrong command. We can go ahead and do Python 3 because we're using Python 3, not Python 2. -m virtual environment, and let's call this hacking 1, right? So we want to create virtual environment hacking 1. If we do an ls, you see that now there is a folder called hacking 1. The reason there's a folder is because this is where all your dependencies and all your libraries would essentially live, right? So the way to activate this is very simple. For Mac and Linux, you're going to do a source directory bin activate. You're going to want to run this command. So source your directory /bin /activate. Cool. As you can see now, we have the little hacking 1 right next to my user at Ubuntu cybersec, right? So that means we are in this virtual environment. And if we use pip list, we can see everything that's installed right now. So we only have pip, setup tools, and wheel. For those of you on Mac, this works for both Mac and Linux. For those of you on Windows, you're going to want to do something like hacking 1 bin activate, and then you're going to just execute that executable. Very different, but not by much. So you have your virtual environment. Now what? Well, here's where the cool part. You can start installing any packages or libraries that you need specifically for your project. So let's do Scapy. And let's do nmap. Cool. If we do a pip list, you can see we have Scapy and Python nmap installed on this machine. Well, on this virtual environment. So what can we do with this? Well, you could start developing whatever you needed, right? Let's say you want to store this off because you're going to give this to your friend. You can run pip freeze, which when you do that, it'll spit out a requirements list. And let's redirect this to a requirements.txt. Okay, we'll use that in a little bit. So let's say you've been developing all day and you want to go back to your normal terminal window or PowerShell. You can exit out of this, sure, but let's say you want to stay in this terminal because you're going to switch to another environment, right? If you do deactivate, there you go. You can tell you're out of it because the hacking one is no longer there. And here's where the requirements will come. So if I do an ls, you'll see the requirements.txt. If we concatenate that out, you can see that it has the requirements right there. So let's go ahead and create a new environment. So we'll run the same command again, and we will do hacking2. Oops, I'm not trying to do Python, I'm trying to do Python 3. So we're going to do python-m virtual env and then hacking2. Cool. So if we do ls, you'll notice that there is a new directory here called hacking2. Again, let's activate that using source hacking2 bin activate. This is for Linux and Mac. If you're on Windows, you would then go and just execute the executable activate. We have hacking2, and if we do pip list, you'll notice, hey, we only have pip setup tools and wheel. Well, we have the requirements file. That requirements file is not specifically for any virtual environment. Generally, you want to bundle it together when you give it to somebody else, but that works anywhere. So if we were to do pip install -r and the requirements file, it'll read it and then install. So if we do pip list, cool, we now have Python nmap and Scapy. So if you had a similar project, but let's say you wanted to create a different version, you could share the same requirements, that's fine. Generally, a requirements per project is the best way to go, and maybe even for version, right? So if you do an install, or not install, but let's say you make another iteration, so version 2 of your project, well, maybe you want to have a requirements version 1 and a requirements version 2 because of anything that may have evolved over. So those are just general practices and good stuff you want to do. And that's kind of the gist of it, right? So if we deactivate, we're now back to where we are. So how do we get rid of these, right? So actually, before we get rid of these, let's go look at one real quick. So as you can tell, there's a bin, a lib, a config, and a share. I'm not going to go over it in this video, but that's kind of the gist of it. So if you want to delete it, all you got to do is the same command you would for anything else. We're going to do tac-r for recursive, and we're going to want to delete hacking and then star for wildcard. So this will delete hacking1, hacking2. We have our requirements. Again, we can look at that. We can keep that for now, but I'm just going to delete it. So at this point, we've gone over creating it. So Python 3-m virtual environment, your environment name, right? We've gone over sourcing, which is how you activate it. Deactivate, which is how you deactivate it, right? Pip freeze, and then you pipe it out to some file .txt, and that's how you get the requirements for the environment that you're in. And then pip install -r, the file name of your requirements, is how you install everything. And then right now, my Python is using my global libraries because I don't have a package. I don't have a virtual environment set up. So pip list will show you everything I have on my global system. So that's kind of virtual environment in a nutshell and a quick crash course. I want to thank you guys for sticking around, and I have more videos to come. Please make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon to get notified when new videos are uploaded. I'll see you in the next one.